Warning, the RCWR show with Lee Sanders is intended for a mature audience only. The following is an Infinity One Productions presentation, keeping it honest, insightful, and interactive. Covering the latest in wrestling and beyond since 2011. You're listening to the RCWR show. Now, your host, live from the nation's capital in Washington, D.C., Lee Sanders.
You're listening to the RCWR show with Lee Sanders, episode number 562. I am the one and only Lee Sanders here. Thank you guys so much for checking out this episode, coming at you right now for November 29th, 2017. Woo! Daddy, a lot of stuff we need to get into on this episode. Now, we were supposed to do this episode for you all on Tuesday, and if I sound pretty good right now, that's fantastic. Let me know as you're checking this out throughout the entire episode. But honestly, Tuesday, I was not feeling good whatsoever. I actually came in from work rather a little bit early from both jobs, and I was like, okay, let me catch up on some stuff on the DVR. I'll rest up a little bit, and then it'll be time to do the show live. I was looking forward to it. A lot that I had wanted to get into, and then I really started to not feel too well. I kind of felt a little bit under the weather. I went to sleep. My girl had woke me up briefly. She said, "Hun, by chance, are you doing a show?" And I said, I'm not really sure. I'm not really feeling too good. Kind of feel like I have a cold coming on. I remember I went back to sleep. I woke up a little while later and I was feeling very congested. Took a little bit of some NyQuil, rolled over. Now, I really should have put out some type of a message notification giving you guys a heads up. So for those of you that might have been looking for an episode yesterday, I humbly do apologize for that. I ended up not going to my day job today, so I actually have a little bit of free time right now before I have to go in for my overnight job. And I decided, you know what, while it's still early, let me go on ahead, sit down, record this, get this out to you all as quickly as possible, because I know a lot of you guys, trust me, I know how the schedule is, because I know a lot of you guys, based on the demographics I saw a while back, basically a lot of you guys, you're either in school or you're somewhere in that 25 to 40 age range, so you probably got work in the morning, so you really can't stay up Tuesday nights. A lot of you all try to check out the episode first thing Wednesday morning, afternoon. So at the time that I'm recording this right now, it's still early in the afternoon, and we're going to do our best to get this out to you guys as much as early as humanly possible. But I tell you, I'm actually kind of glad that we had went on ahead and we didn't do a show yesterday, because so much has transpired in the last 24 hours. It's not even funny. Now, I'm letting you guys know off the break that I will be getting into a good chunk of wrestling related content. But the first half of the show, you know how we do it here. We go into a little bit of everything. So if you're not really feeling some of the topics that I'm going to be diving into off the break, you have a very powerful button at the touch of your fingertips. It is the fast forward button. Make sure you utilize that and utilize it properly. As always, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram at the RCWR show. And if you like this episode, do me a huge favor. Make sure you go out of your way. You give this episode a like. You should see some type of a heart icon /like. Make sure you click on that bad boy. Helps out, especially if you see it on Spreaker. It helps those out in making sure they know what shows to recommend to folks on the respective platforms. So do that. Really appreciate it in advance. So I tell you, I woke up this morning probably like at about 5 in the morning. I had a hard time sleeping. I remember I was browsing the web a little bit, didn't really come across anything that was, oh wow, this is interesting. Still felt a little bit congested, so I took a little bit of NyQuil, and I stayed up for a little bit, saw my girl go off to work, and she was like, I'll check in with you later today, see how you're doing. Probably like about, I would say 90 minutes from the time she left out the house to go to work to me finally starting to get a little bit rested up, and I was getting ready to go back to sleep because I had some NyQuil. So I was kind of feeling a little bit better, but felt like I needed to rest a little bit more. I get a text message from my girl. It had woke me up right when I was drifting off to sleep, and it said something about Matt Lauer fired, and I'm going, the hell is that about? Whatever. and I went back to sleep. And I wake up a couple of hours later, still in the morning, and I decide to scroll on my phone, and I see what all had went down with Matt Lauer, and I'm just shaking my head in disbelief going, here we go again, another casualty. Depending on how you want to look at that, but I'm not picking a side. I'm just saying casualty. I take that how you want it, but if you ask me to really define where I stand with regards to what's coming about with Matt Lauer, I'm not choosing a side, not right now. But so those of you that maybe had missed, I'm sure by now there's no way you guys could have possibly had missed it. Matt Lauer was fired from NBC. He was fired from the Today Show after a complaint about inappropriate sexual behavior. Now, he was fired early Wednesday morning after an employee filed a complaint about inappropriate sexual behavior in the workplace, the network had announced. And Savannah Guthrie, very heartfelt announcement that she had made at the top of the hour on the Today Show, saying in part that they all were devastated. And as many of you probably know, if you've been watching the Today Show for a significant period of time, I grew up on the Today Show. I remember when it was Ann and Bryant Gumbel. I remember when it was those two guys. I remember when Matt Lauer had came in and took over the reins back in 97 for more than 20 years. Matt Lauer has been doing his thing on the Today Show. So, the Today Show, one of the most popular franchises that's out there in American television, in American pop culture. And Matt Lauer has been the cornerstone for that respected franchise for a little bit over 2 decades. And you had multiple news outlets that were investigating Lauer's supposed off-camera misconduct. One of the outlets, turns out, was the New York Times, that actually was in touch with an accuser when then they had met with NBC lawyers and human resource officials Monday evening. Now, the accuser's attorney, Ari Wilkenfield, had said in a statement that he and his client met with representatives from NBC's human resources and legal department team on Monday at 6 p.m. And I quote, "Over the course of several hours, my client detailed outrageous acts of sexual harassment and misconduct by Mr. Lauer. In fewer than 35 hours, NBC investigated and removed Mr. Lauer," Wilkenfield said. "Our impression at this point is that NBC acted quickly and responsibly, as all companies should when confronted with credible allegations about sexual misconduct in the workplace. It is our hope that NBC will continue to do what it can to repair the damage done to my client, their employee, and any other women, who may come forward. While I am impressed with NBC's response to date, I am awed by the courage my client showed to be the first to raise a complaint and to do so without making any demands other than asking the company to do the right thing. This is how the system should work." So the investigation, it had continued on after that initial talk with NBC Human Resources, the NBC lawyer team. It had continued on going into Tuesday, and the decision was made by Tuesday evening, almost going into Wednesday morning, to terminate Matt Lauer. You talk about a swift turnaround. NBC News chairman Andrew Luck, who is actually a close friend of Matt Lauer's, called, talked with the man, and according to a source with public knowledge of the whole process, these two, they apparently talked it out. Now, as far as the details go about this woman's complaint, they have not been made public yet. But Lack did say in a memo to staff that it represented, after serious review, a clear violation of our company's standards. The source said that the woman alleged the inappropriate behavior occurred while Lauer was in Russia covering the Winter Olympics in 2014. And so far, it looks as though Matt Lauer, he has declined to offer any type of a comment, offer up any type of a statement. An official spokesperson for NBC, they have declined to follow up with regards to this. But this is just, when you hear this, it's crazy. It is just crazy. Now, Variety's New York bureau chief, Ramin Satua, hopefully I'm pronouncing that name right. If I am not, forgive me. He said on Twitter that he and his colleagues, Elizabeth Wagmeister and a few others, have been doing reporting about serious sexual harassment allegations against Lauer for 2 months now. And in part, had said NBC was aware of the reporting. Wagmeister tweeted, "There are multiple women we've spoken to with far-ranging accusations against Lauer. The power of journalism has never been more evident with this cultural change." And it was really tough seeing Matt Lauer's colleagues of the Today Show really try to pull themselves together as they had made the announcement of what all was going on, especially Savannah Guthrie, who recently just came off of being pregnant, had gave birth to a child, had been the co-host with Matt Lauer for about 5 years and some change. She was told overnight about his termination. She, along with Hoda Kotb, they had Kotb. I don't watch the Today Show enough, so I mean, for me personally, I do watch Matt and Savannah, but like the other people, I don't really know too much about. I know about Al Roker and all that, but this was really hard for me to process. Just pulling all that to the side, let me just take a step back and just tell you how I just was rocked when I had heard this news. So one of the first things that came into my mind was Matt Lauer. Are you serious? Matt freaking Lauer. NBC Matt Lauer. The guy that has been a cornerstone in the Today franchise for a little bit over 2 decades. Matt Lauer. He's been fired because of some type of sexual misconduct. He behaved sexually inappropriate to a woman. Like, he's fired for these reasons. Tell me you're joking. Like, what the hell? This doesn't make any sense. And it took me a hard time to process this because I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe it. I thought maybe somebody had pulled some type of a fucking prank and that sooner or later Matt was going to say something. But the more and more news media outlets that had reported on this, it was like, all right, well, this is the deal. This is the real deal. I gotta tell you, first off, my thoughts, my prayers, but also absolute resolution is what I want to ultimately come from this. I hope that the victim is able to move on from this ordeal, and any other potential victim that may have been affected in any shape or form by one Matt Lauer's actions. I hope that they are able to find the strength, the courage, the wisdom to move on from what was probably a very, without a doubt, uncomfortable ordeal that they had to deal with at the time. And I was talking to my girl about this, and look, I really want the record to show, because any longtime RCWR show listener knows that my girl, her mom is actually friends with someone that has worked with NBC, worked directly with NBC at their studios and all that, for many decades. And I won't exactly put the position out there given the circumstances of this particular, but what I can say is that they had worked behind the scenes in pre and post production. That much I can say. And they've been to a lot of NBC meetings, a lot of those taking place in New York, some happening in DC, but they would always travel up to New York. And they have became friends with a lot of people. That's the thing. When you are able to be welcome into the NBC family fold, you are there for life. And even if you've retired or whatever, you're always an NBC lifer. and just the information that they have been able to accumulate over the years through acquaintances, close friends, connections. My girl had told me straight up when this news had came about, she said, I'm not surprised by this news. And I can actually show you, anybody that doesn't believe me, I can show you the text messages that I had exchanged with my girl leading up to me sitting down recording this. I had said to her, hey, didn't you say that he was a prick? And she was like, yeah, I did say that before. And I asked her, I said, were you aware of his appetite for women? And she said, yes, that is largely in part why Katie and Ann Curry had left. It was mainly because of him. I said, holy shit. And she said, yes, he is an ass. Now, you can take that part about Ann and Katie Couric, you can take that and you can just look at that as speculation or whatever like that. But my girl is able to come across she's certain things that would just make your head go, what the fuck? And there have been some things that I've been able to come across just from talking to her about what's happening inside NBC. And she's like, with certain people, and she's like, hey, don't tell anybody. You can't talk about this on your show yet. You can only talk about it after the news has come about, if it's come about. But like, apparently amongst those that have direct dealings with Matt Lauer, and in this case, even though she might have not dealt directly with Matt Lauer, the person that she knows, basically the person, I'm trying to connect the dots for you guys. So my girlfriend's mom's boyfriend, does that make sense? My girlfriend's mom's boyfriend. He is basically one that was working for NBC for a good amount of decades, and he met a lot of people, made a lot of friends, very beloved, very, very beloved, had some very, very good fun times working at NBC. And this is, I've heard about this off and on for a couple of years. I didn't want to believe it. And I remember there was a time or two where I had asked my girl, I said, well, he can't be that much of a prick. Like, how bad is it? And she told me a couple of years back, it's really bad. I'm like, how bad? Like, really bad. And she wouldn't elaborate any further than that. And then when this had came about, and I asked her straight up, I said, did you always know he had this appetite, this sexual appetite for women? And she was like, oh yeah, I've always known. It's one of the things that I won't say any further than that, because I asked her if it was okay for me to talk about on the show, and she said, yeah, it's okay. You just can't go any further than basically what we're talking about. But if I say any more, I don't want to incriminate the person tied to NBC, but trust me, very, very respectable source. I can tell you that. And her and her mom, they used to meet everybody, whether it was at the DC station or it was in New York. They used to stay meeting people. They were able to make really good friends in the process. So to hear this about Matt Lauer, I tell you, it sounds to me like time finally caught up with this guy, and leave it to social media to really rip this guy new you know what. You've got people that are going, hey, remember that little skit that Matt Lauer did a while back where he was dressed in his suit, shirt, tie, and he had boxers on, and he was standing there kind of like flashing to the girls, and Savannah had said, stop it, Matt, you're making me lactate, or something like that. And then everybody remembers the infamous interview where he was grilling the hell out of Corey Feldman about the whole sexual allegations and all that. Everybody was going, well, now it's kind of obvious why Matt Lauer was like so gung-ho, why he was like going back and forth with Corey like that. Now a lot of things kind of make a little bit of sense, and then everybody's just now stringing up all these other things, and they're going, huh? And I tell you what, for NBC to act so quickly, to act so swiftly that they did, it sends a couple of messages to me. One of them being that the evidence must have been very, very incriminating. And I have a feeling that the lawyers, everybody involved, look, they had to have known that for at least 2 to 3 months, Matt Lauer was being investigated. Can I just tell you my belief, my perspective from a distance, just looking at the overall picture. When this woman had came about, and it basically had presented a solid foundation, if you will, to what the other news media outlets were already beginning with their respective investigations. What this woman, this victim, what she did in coming forward was basically setting up the foundation and solidifying that, yes, this is legit. This is not no hating tour. This is not a situation where we're just trying to screw a good person out of a job and we're trying to fit some right wing's agenda or whatever. Nothing to do with that. To have known that he has been investigated this long, I have a feeling that NBC, they really did a lot of cross-referencing and they were like, okay, you know what? It's not looking good based on the evidence that we were able to accumulate, because that's the thing. When you are a journalist, when you are part of the news media outlets, you would be surprised, especially in these last, I would say, couple of years alone, we have seen more and more news media outlets collaborate. And I would not be surprised. They're all, it might seem like, well, this network is out to, when it's all said and done, everybody as a collective unit is just one big family when it's all said and done. And you make many friends and acquaintances along the way. And don't take my word for it. I can definitely tell you from the standpoint of what I've been able to learn from my girlfriend's mom's boyfriend, what I've been able to learn. I'm not saying that just to throw it out there. You do make a lot of friends, from just in that industry itself. You make a lot of friends, sometimes friends for life. So for me, I would not put it past NBC to have done their respected background checks, cross-referencing, getting in contact with other colleagues, and they were able to really establish that this is the real deal. And ultimately, they had no choice but to move as swiftly as they did, because people are tuning in to the Today Show, much like what they were doing with the nightly news when it was originally, well, I won't say originally, but we remember the era with Tom Brokaw. We're like, where do we go after Tom Brokaw? And then we saw what went about with Brian Williams. We thought he was a great successor until he did that stupid crap that he did. Americans felt betrayed. They felt as though, wow, like, how can we trust NBC now? And I gotta tell you, looking back, NBC handled that very swiftly. They handled that very professionally. I give them a lot of props for the way that they handled that. And to basically have Lester Holt come in, I tell you, little by little, he's just been chipping away, and he has just overall been becoming one of my favorite hosts of the nightly news, aside from Tom Brokaw. So for NBC top execs to operate in this fashion, number one, the evidence that was accumulated was very, very solid. And I have a feeling that in the coming days, in the coming weeks, we're going to learn a lot more. We are going to hear from even more victims. And I tell you, for them to operate the way that they operated, kudos to NBC. At the same time, I also need to highlight, and I don't see enough people talking about this all throughout social media. You guys need to remember that there was a time a couple of years back where Matt Lauer had contemplated retiring from NBC. And all the news media outlets, I remember vividly when they were talking about this, they were like, hey, Matt Lauer, he's winding down. He's thinking about retiring. Who could possibly be the successor? And I remember one of the names that was thrown out there was Ryan Seacrest. And I remember, I don't know how long it took, but I remember this went on for just a couple of weeks. It didn't drag on for months. It just took a couple of weeks. And the next thing you know, Matt Lauer. Now look, maybe Matt Lauer, because my memory's a little bit fuzzy right now. I can't remember if he was just out in the open and he had said, hey, I'm thinking about retiring and I'm not really, or maybe he was just en passé talking about it with a friend or whatever, and that friend or whomever felt as though they had a scoop and they shared that scoop, and then that's how it had manifested. But then all of a sudden, if Matt was thinking about retiring, he suddenly had changed his mind. And I remember not too long after that, he and Ryan Seacrest had sat down. Seacrest came by for something. I'm not really sure what it was, but I know Seacrest in the past, he had guest host a few episodes of Today. And Matt was like, you want to tell the folks at home, you know something that I don't know? Like, are you supposed to be replacing me or something? What's going on? And I remember Ryan was just kind of backing down, saying, hey, man, this ship is all yours. I'm like in the dark, just like you. I don't know what the heck is going on. And just the way that Matt had kind of handled it, though, I kind of got that whole douchebag vibe from him. I didn't think he needed to go to those extremes. A simple taking a moment during the show, since it was at that point, it was 3 hours or whatever, just to take a simple, hey, for those of you watching at home or are going to be watching this on demand on social media, just want to clear up a little bit of a discrepancy. Past couple of days, couple of weeks, blah, 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 blah. Could have squashed it that way. But yeah, I mean, the guy always kind of came off like a douchebag. I mean, he may not look like it now to a lot of ladies, but I remember when Matt had first joined the Today Show, he had a full set of hair. He had this nice, oozing charisma, great smile, nice look that the ladies just loved tremendously. They thought Brian Gumble was something, but when they got a hold of Matt Lauer, I mean, they were just loving them some Matt Lauer. So, he was at one point I won't say a sex icon, but he definitely was sexy. Back in the day, before all that hair had disappeared and everything. And see, you just got to take this a step further. There's a reason why I'm going on and on and on and on and on about this. And here's the main point. You look at what had went down with Matt Lauer. You also look at what went down with Hollywood producer / Mongol Harvey Weinstein, Kevin Spacey, Louis C.K. I mean, it's just, my God, Jeremy Piven, just all these people within recent weeks that are coming under this damn microscope. And then you look at what happened with Al Franken and the other, senator or whatever, the other guy that's in trouble now, the old black guy that said he's resigning or whatever from the committee or whatever. So, I mean, you look at all of these things that's coming about right now. And I tell you, the women have fought for decades to be put in a position where they too can go for the same jobs that men are holding that's paying really decent amount of money. Women have been fighting so hard to be treated as equals in the workforce. And then when they were finally given the position of being hired, just like what these positions the males were being hired for, then you had the pay discrepancy. It's like, well, wait a minute. Why is this guy getting $5 more? I'm doing literally the same thing he's doing. His job responsibilities are the same job responsibilities that I have as well. Why am I being paid less than what he's doing? I should be getting the same amount as him. And if I'm doing my job adequately, proficiently, I should definitely be given the opportunity to get a raise or whatever. So, bad enough, the women were fighting to be treated as equals in the workforce. They're finally given that position. Okay, you want to work just like okay, all right, there. But then we have a discrepancy in the pay, in the wages. Okay, and it still continues to this day to a certain degree, the discrepancy in pay. But then when you finally do get the pay discrepancy taken care of, now it's about promotion. It's about, hey, look, I've put in my time. I've put in the resources. I really feel as though I should be considered for the promotion. And I mean, it has just continued for years upon years upon years for women to really fight and really be treated truly as equals to their male counterparts. And I tell you, that was probably one of the most refreshing, revitalizing things that I had saw about the presidential race. Seeing Hillary Clinton run for everything that everybody was saying, crooked Hillary and everything. It was very refreshing, very empowering to see that so many people were supporting a female. Now, I'm not just homing in on the name, but just the fact that so many were homing in on Hillary Clinton, the woman. It was a big testament to me as far as how far along our society has come. And I do feel that in my lifetime that we will see a female president. We will get a first female president of the United States of America. I have a feeling that it will happen. I'm not sure if it's going to be Hillary. I'm not sure if it's maybe going to be Michelle Obama. I'm not sure if it's going to be Oprah Winfrey. I'm not sure if maybe it'll be Elizabeth Warren. Only time will tell. But I tell you, it's interesting times that we're living in right now, because now more and more than ever, we are seeing women that are saying no. They are finally, what you're seeing right now, boys and girls, are women that are finally putting their foot down and they're saying, no, I'm not going to continue to be a victim. No, I am not going to continue to live in silence. I am going to speak, and I am going to tell the truth no matter what. And I know a lot of people, you can't really process it as far as, you know, why these women are waiting, but for so long. I know we have some people that feel, well, some of these women kind of brought it on to themselves. I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, just because you are a female that may dress very provocatively, you may dress very scandalously, you dress somewhat revealing, it does not mean that you are a easy meal. For me, it just means that you feel rather confident in your appearance, you feel sexy, and you want to show it off a little bit. And if that's how you feel, then God bless you. At the same time, you do have to be consciously aware that how you dress, how you body language wise, how you talk to people, it can be perceived in certain ways. And you definitely have to be firm when you mean no. If a person does not have a shot at you, you don't need to continue to lead them on and give them false hope. No means no. And for a lot of these women that were put in these positions, like this one woman was with Matt Lauer, sometimes it can just be a scenario where you have a lot of these women, they are up and coming. They're really trying to get the jump start to their careers. And you've got guys like a Matt Lauer, like a Harvey Weinstein, that can basically make or break your career. They've got the contacts, and if you want those contacts, if you're trying to move up, you got to play ball. And it's not just so much as women. We've also seen men affected by this as well over the years. So it's really nice seeing these victims step from behind the shadows and saying, no more. I'm not going to remain silent anymore. And everybody wants to point out to the whole Harvey Weinstein. Folks, honestly, everything traces back to what had came about with Bill Cosby. If you want to look at one focal point, if you want to look at one moment in history during the past 10 years where things really had got popping, I think you'd have to go as far back as to what had went down with the Bill Cosby scandal. And that pretty much just over the course of time made more and more women, more victims step forward And for you all that think that this is going to die down anytime soon, I think you're sadly mistaken. I think because of the day and age that we're in now, the generations of women that are coming up, the empowerment that they're feeling more than ever, we are going to continue to see victims speak up. And I tell you, it really makes you want to take a step back and question your working relationships with your colleagues. I mean, do I get a little bit paranoid when I see stuff like this? To a certain degree, I do, because I'm one of those type of people. Once you've come to get to know me, I can be very friendly. I can be friendly to the point where if I see you, I want to hug you. That is if you're a female. If you're a man, I want to give you a high five. I want to give you a dab. I want to pat you on the back. But when it comes to females, and I think it's because I've been the only child in my family, and I've also had my mom had raised me. So for me, I've always had more of a stronger connection with women. So over the years, I've befriended many females. And I am always one of those type of people. I like to give a hug. I like to give a peck on the cheek. I like to pat on the back, rub on the back, really be a good friend, listen, try to provide any solid advice that I can provide. And those that are able to take the time out to really get to know me, it's a female that I befriend, knows that I treat them pretty much like a dude. I'm very blunt. I'm very frank. And I'm proud to say that I've never had a woman come forward and put me in the limelight like a lot of these people have. And I tell you though, after hearing about so many of these victims, it just definitely plays a part in my psyche and going, man, I wonder if they like when I give them a hug. I wonder if they like when I rub the upper part of their back as a way of saying, hello, or I'm being friendly or whatever. It's got me now, really paranoid, and I'm sure I'm not the only one that's thinking that way. I mean, you kind of now have to almost be the same way in the work environment situation. You have to be very, very careful. And true story, I didn't mention this on last week's show, but true story. Me and my girl, we actually went to IHOP. I think I had mentioned this story. I'm not really sure. But we went to IHOP Thanksgiving morning. I was really burned out. I was very tired. And I said to my girl, look, I know we are supposed to watch the Macy's parade in a couple of hours, but I'm really hungry. I know we're supposed to be waiting until we start cooking Thanksgiving, but I'm really hungry. IHOP's going to be open until 2 p.m. Can we head on over there, grab some early breakfast? And she said, yeah, sure, no problem. So we went there. And we got greeted by the hostess, and she wanted to know what was our order or how could she help us. And we told her we wanted to order something for carryout. So she gave us some menus, and as we were going through the menus, it was a rather she was a thick Hispanic girl. She was definitely thick. I would say she was Nia Jax thick, but she had more of a booty. So it was, when I say she had more of a booty, her booty, you know how some women, it looks like they have wide butts, but it's actually just wide hips. Well, in this particular case, not only did she have wide hips, but there was actually a lot of junk in the trunk. So I'm homing in on that for a reason. So 3 guys came in. All of them looked to be probably in their late 40s, early 50s. White guys. Looked like maybe at some point, maybe they did like some construction work or whatever. Who knows? But the main guy, he comes in, he says, hey, honey, good morning. 3 tables. Come on, let's do it. And he's like, yeah, 3 tables. And she's like, okay, you want 3 tables? Smoking, non-smoking? He's like, it doesn't matter. And then he actually walks behind her, looks at her ass, and says, oh, honey, we don't need no seats. You got a nice looking, comfortable cushion back there. I'm going to sit on that. Let me sit on that for a few hours. And his body language, his facial expressions and all that, I mean, he just looked like a total fucking douchebag. And the way that she had conducted herself, I told her after she had seated them down and came on back to me and Tammy, I said, honey, actually I didn't say honey, I said, miss, I said, kudos to you. Bless your heart, because what that guy said was very degrading. I don't see how you could deal with that. If that would have been me, I'd have cursed him out. I wouldn't even serviced him. And she was like, thank you. I said, no, I really mean that. And Tammy was like, what the hell happened? And I told her what happened. And her mouth, she was floored. And I told her, I said, and some guys wonder, they don't get it. Some of them wonder why you're seeing all of this shit going around. Well, when you got assholes like that guy that I just described, need you wonder why? You still got Ann Curry processing this whole shit too that had went down with Matt Lauer. I'm not really sure if she has a story or two to tell, but I know a lot of people are kind of going, hey, Ann Curry's got to be excited by this news right now. She's got to be, because a lot of people have always felt that it was Matt Lauer that had the stroke, that he was the one that pretty much had ran her off of the damn Today Show, literally, Katie as well to a certain degree. But, you know, it is what it is. That's just pure speculation. But, you know, we're going to be seeing a lot more of this, even as the year is finally winding down. I think for the next 6 to 8 months, it's really going to be popping, man. I'd like to know how you all have been able to process what's been going on with Matt Lauer. Definitely everything that's been going on in recent weeks with everybody else. So get at me on social media. Let me know. But yeah, you talk about crazy midweek, man. So aside from that, I hope everybody's Thanksgiving was fantastic. Mine was very relaxful. Honestly, I wish that I was off work from both jobs, but sadly, I was only off work from one of them. And I wanted to be off a little while longer just to enjoy some good quality time with the missus. But I've got a birthday coming up, and I'm going to try to see if maybe I can justify it that way. But it was very nice, very relaxing. No, I did not do anything with regards to the Thanksgiving holiday sale, which was really hilarious, by the way, because when I had returned to work Friday night after Thanksgiving, pretty much before the weekend was out, I had saw like all these citations for stores that did not open on Thanksgiving. And there was like about, according to my colleagues, there was like about at least 80 stores that did not open on Thanksgiving. And I told her, I said, man, it's kind of silly that we write these citations, but I get it. And I understood it from the standpoint of, you know, why are we trying to accommodate merchants if they're not going to even be open on the major holiday? Like, there's no reason for us to be open if they're not going to comply, right? It's like everybody wins. It's like you stay open. The employees get extra money in their pocket, right? Whatever sales you're able to generate from that day is definitely going to have a good impact on making sure you're able to pay your lease, right? So, I mean, it's a win-win situation. But like I was telling my girl, I said, you know, the citations are silly because what you have is a failure to communicate. Management should have put out some type of a memo to all the stores saying, hey, we just want to know which one of you guys, if any, are going to do you want to be open during the major holiday, or are you going to be closed? Please let us know so that we know how to execute things accordingly. So on management's part, they fucked up. And then when you go to the store merchants, none of the store merchants put up any signs that they were even going to be closed, and, you know, they should have. So it's a failure of communication on both parties, but I definitely understand the citations, although I think it's really freaking silly. But it was definitely a very quiet, relaxful, which is exactly what I needed, honestly, because I just do not like dealing with a shitload of people. I'm telling you, I like showing up for my overnights. I don't have to deal with anybody. Occasionally, I may have to deal with a contractor or two that's doing some work overnight, but for the most part, I get to catch up on some reading. I get to brush up on some stuff I want to tackle for the show for the very next week, things of that nature. Probably the only thing I had did with regards to sales, I went on WWE Shop, and I actually had got a hold of the AJ Styles WrestleMania plaque joint when he had faced Shane McMahon. I got the autograph joint from WWEshop.com. My girl doesn't even know what it is. I told her, hey, I got something for my birthday. I'm going to give it to you. You're going to gift wrap it and you're going to give it to me on my birthday. And she's like, well, that's no fun. I said, yeah, I know. I said, but play along. Be nice. Like, I know you're going to look out for me on Christmas, but play nice. Be nice for me. So, I got that. Good deal too. They wanted $150 and, I was able to take advantage of that during Cyber Monday. I think it was something about 75% off and then take an additional 25% off from shipping or whatever, free shipping or something like that. So what was $150, I actually was able to get it for like $75. And it looks damn freaking good. If you've never seen it before, just chill. Once it comes, I will definitely do a special unveiling for that, for you guys. But I hope you all's Thanksgiving was pretty good. Some of you all are still recovering, as we all, you know how it is, man. Wasn't really too impressed with some of the action we had saw from this week's WWE Raw and Smackdown. Any key points that I want to talk about from Monday Night Raw? The only thing I really want to talk about, Cesaro, Seth Rollins, they had a pretty good singles match. Everybody, was asking me, what did you think about Matt Hardy, Bray Wyatt? I'm like, what do I need to think in particular? And the question was brought up, well, did you see what Matt Hardy did afterwards? And at the time, I didn't see it because I didn't watch Raw yet. So I actually had to catch it on the DVR the next day. And I get it, Matt Hardy saying the whole delete. And it was kind of like the first time that they had the camera on Matt Hardy for such a long extended period of time as he was chanting delete. And I say, yeah, that's nice, but I can't really feed too much into it. I need to see a lot more than what we're getting right now. I have been an advocate for a long time, pretty much ever since the Hardys had first came back into the WWE, that this go round at least, that I would love to see nothing more than Matt Hardy introduce the Broken Hardy character or the Woken Matt Hardy or whatever he's trying to call it. I would love to see it in the WWE. But until you get rid of all that red tape, which is known as Anthem Wrestling, because they're going through, or Anthem Entertainment, because they've got this back and forth lawsuit going on with Matt Hardy, until you get that resolved, anything else is just going to be a cheap, watered down imitation until otherwise. So for me, boys and girls, I really cannot be that excited for it, because for me, it's like, okay, I've kind of seen this once before. Great. It ran an additional 10 seconds longer than what we saw in previous months. That's great. Oh, you got Michael Cole saying, are we seeing the beginnings of a broken up Matt Hardy or whatever he had said, a breakdown in Matt Hardy or whatever. Yeah, it's possible. It's possible that we could be getting, but I'm not going to really feed too much into it. Now, you have some people trying to figure out, well, what would be a really cool way for the Matt Hardy broken character to be introduced to the WWE universe. And I had said it on this very show months back, and I will reiterate it again and let this go round be a testament for those that maybe missed it the first go round. The way I laid it out was as easy as you can possibly get. As a matter of fact, you can kind of go back to Epic Sports, because I talked about it on 2 occasions, and I know Epic had uploaded the clips, but let me be candid. If it was me and I had the blessings from Anthem Entertainment, I had control or I had use of the broken Matt Hardy gimmick, how would I go about introducing it to the WWE Universe? It would be through Bray Wyatt. And the way that I would do it, very simplistic. You can have Bray Wyatt at some point say, I am aware of the true powers that you once had possessed before you came to this dimension. And I'm not sure why, but it seems as though your powers are now in a slumber status. Why you refuse to give in to your true nature, to your true inner being, I do not know. Maybe you are scared because the power at one point, it had consumed you and it made you mad. But through my proper guidance, through my proper teachings, I can not only help you harness that power, but I can help you point it in the right direction that you need to go to. You can, with me, be the light. We can be the light that will correct all wrong that is not right in this dimension being the WWE Universe. And I can see Bray Wyatt basically being the one to bring that out. He would be the conduit, right? He would be that gateway into introducing the broken Matt Hardy. And I said it on this very show. I said a brief alliance with Bray and Matt, that would be freaking awesome. You can ride that all the way until, if you want, WrestleMania. And you could have a match culminate and Matt taking on Bray Wyatt. Basically, you could let it be a scenario where Bray is teaching Matt and they're making a really great alliance, but that along the way, quietly, Matt has gotten more stronger and stronger, and he's just gotten to that point where he doesn't need Bray Wyatt anymore. He is now listening once again to the seven deities, right? And they're telling him what he needs to do and all that other jazz. And basically, you can have everything culminate at a match at WrestleMania. Shortly afterwards, you can bring back Jeff Hardy, let those two feud that way. Maybe eventually you kind of bring about Brother Nero, who knows? But that is how I would basically set it up. If I was the one in control, I had 100% full usage of broken Matt Hardy. That's how I would come about it. Do you bring in Rebby Sky? Do you bring in, do you bring in Vanguard? Yeah, you'd have to go the whole 9 yards. If you're gonna do it, you gotta go all the way. Cause like I said at the top, everything else would be nothing but a watered down cheap imitation. But that is how, for record, I would go about it. I just find it funny that now everybody is going, oh, how would they introduce it? And it's like, I've been saying for months how they should introduce it. Other than that, I enjoyed the Intercontinental title match between Elias, Roman Reigns. That was a pretty good matchup. That actually should have closed out Monday Night Raw. Asuka taking on Dana Brooke, made quick work of Dana Brooke. Match was over in like less than 90 seconds. Asuka had caught Dana Brooke in the Asuka lock for a super quick tap out. I mean, it was a quick squash match. Afterwards, we saw Paige's new stable, Absolution. Remember, she's now with Mandy and Sonya. They basically did a stare down of Asuka. Asuka was ready to fight all three of them, but Paige just stood there, blew a kiss. Asuka was actually able to leave the ring, so that kind of had a lot of people talking, wondering what the hell was going on. Is it possible that maybe there's some type of a alliance, if you will, with Asuka, Paige, Mandy, Sonya? Or is it a case where Paige has so much respect for Asuka that like, nah, not right now, but your time is gonna come, and I'm gonna let you be for now? I'm tripping over the name of that damn stable. Absolution? Of all the names that was available, Absolution. I mean, you couldn't say Gen 13 or Gen 3 or you couldn't come up with anything more kind of cool. I mean, goddamn, you can load up WWE 2K18 and you can take a look at freaking multiplayer mode when you're playing tag teams or whatever online, and you can come up with better names that way. What, Methods of Mayhem wasn't available? I mean, seriously, that's just, my God, man, that name, so silly. That name was just beyond silly. But it doesn't take, oh God, silly. At least you got, what's the stable's name over on Smackdown? The Riot Squad or whatever? Ruby Squad, whatever the hell. Their name will come back to me in a second. At least they tried to throw something in there. Riot Squad, whatever. At least they tried. Raw pretty much went off with Kane taking on Jason Jordan. Kane had won via count out. Closing moments of the match, bell had rang. Jason had charged at Kane, but Kane fought back. Jason had managed to keep up a little bit of offense, but it wasn't enough. One point he lands hard on the floor. Immediately started clutching his knee, selling the injury. Jordan tries to get up as the referee counts, but he kept falling. Jordan eventually got counted out. And as that came about, we saw Kane continue to work on Jason Jordan when Finn Balor came out. Apparently during a commercial break, Kurt Angle had made the match official, so you had Kane, Finn Balor going at it. Finn Balor had actually won via DQ, as during the closing moments of that matchup, Balor had ran in and dropkicked Kane into the barrier. Kane grabs a steel chair, nails Balor with it for a disqualification. That had prompted Braun Strowman to come out, and Big Braun, Kane, they just kept going at it. Pretty much your closing moments of that one, we had saw Braun Strowman use a steel chair to the neck of Kane, not once, but twice. A little bit of retribution from what had went down last week. I'm not really sure if I would have closed out like that, to basically just have Kane walk off, grabbing his throat in the crowd section. And Braun is just standing there in the ring. I thought it was one of the most awkward ways for Monday Night Raw to go off. I gotta tell you, overall, I really was not that impressed with the episode of Raw that we got for this week. It was one of the most lackluster episodes that I've seen in quite some time. It just, the overall flow, and it's so funny because there were so many people that are going, oh man, Raw's been on a roll this week. That's actually what I heard for this week's episode. People were going, Raw's on a roll this week. And I'm going, no, that episode actually was not that good. I thought it was a pretty lackluster, pretty weak episode, to the point. Put a poll out here for you guys. Ask you all, what did y'all make of Monday's WWE Raw? For those of you that haven't chimed in your thoughts yet, get at me on Twitter. As every single Monday night, as soon as Raw goes off the air, I ask you all in a Raw Instant poll what you made up of that week's episode. So, 6% of you gave it a thumbs up. 22% of you are staying in the middle, and an overwhelming 72% of you guys gave it a thumbs down. I'm with the overall consensus on this one. Overall, it didn't get the job done for me, quite honestly. It kind of feels like now we're getting a little bit of lackluster episodes until we get into January, which is pretty much all about the Royal Rumble. So, Smackdown, take away from that, Smackdown was a little bit better. So, we see at the very top of the show to kick things off, Shane McMahon, Daniel Bryan, they were going at it. Shane was trying to understand Daniel Bryan's perspective of why he did not fire Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. Daniel Bryan just pretty much had said, hey man, I know what it's like to be on the chopping block. I know what it's like to be fired, and it's not really a good feeling. And you know what? Yeah, man, I could have easily came on out, fired Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn afterwards, but ultimately they would have went to Raw, and that just wouldn't have been good business, especially if they're able to do better than what they were able to do here on SmackDown. And honestly, only thing these guys are looking for is their opportunities. That's why they had reacted the way that they had reacted. And I can actually understand that from the wrestler's standpoint. So that's why I did not fire them. So we kind of saw a little bit of a situation occur where Daniel Bryan further says to Shane McMahon, hey, look, I know one of the reasons why you hired me is because you didn't want a yes man. You didn't want somebody that always say yes and do everything that you please. And if that's what you're looking for, I'm not your guy. So Shane gave Daniel Bryan his props and was like, okay, you know what? You're absolutely right. And I like what you had did by setting up the match between Randy Orton and Kevin Owens for this week. I like that. You made a lot of good points. Yeah, you're absolutely right. So it kind of seems like, at least for now, they have squashed what was coming about last week. Because remember, I said to you guys, what's the end game? What exactly is the end game? And it looks like, at least for the time being, they've pretty much kind of silenced that, because the way they had left it out there, you were kind of under the impression that like, and we know what Daniel Bryan's been saying in the headlines and all that, but it's just kind of like added more fuel to the fire. It's definitely been a distraction overall from all the action that's been coming about on SmackDown. We saw New Day pick up a victory over Shelton Benjamin, Chad Gable. That actually was a pretty good tag team match. Bludgeon Brothers had defeated the Hype Bros. Afterwards, Ryder was interviewed in the ring, and he talked about how something needs to change. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Mojo attacked him from behind. Fans were actually chanting, "This is awesome," as Mojo unloaded on Ryder. Back from a commercial break, we saw Kyla Braxton ask Mojo Rawley why he attacked Ryder. Mojo says, like Ryder said in the ring, the landscape has changed. I honestly could care less about a Mojo Rawley heel turn, if that's what you want to call it. Personally, I feel that maybe it should have been the other way around. I think maybe it should have been Zack Ryder to turn his back on Mojo. The verdict is still out. I don't really know if Mojo, Zack Ryder, only the hardcore fans are going to care about this particular program. I don't know if this is the right direction that the company should be going with Mojo, but just off the break, first instincts, I'm just kind of going, I'm not really invested, but I'm willing to give the benefit of doubt and just kick back for a couple more weeks and see exactly where this goes. We had saw Baron Corbin get challenged by Bobby Roode in a backstage segment for the United States Championship match. Corbin had declined it. AJ Styles had won his handicap match against the Singh brothers. Had a little bit of help from the Singh brothers, that is. They had a little bit of help from Jinder Mahal, but despite getting that help, AJ still managed to pick up the win. And we saw Jinder Mahal afterwards very frustrated with the Singh brothers, put both of them in the what's his finisher? The End. That's the translation for it, but I can't think of the proper name that he gives it. You had the fans chanting, "You still suck." I love that. We saw the Riot Squad, Ruby Riott, Sarah Logan, Liv Morgan. They have faced in a triple threat match Natalya, Naomi, and Charlotte Flair. Picked up the win there. Ruby, no problem with her in-ring ability. Liv Morgan, she was over, what's the right word I'm looking for? Maybe it's the butterflies, but it wasn't fluid. what I saw of her on the defense and what I saw of her on offense, it wasn't as fluid. She wasn't selling the moves that were being applied to her when she had to go on the defense. She wasn't selling on time. And when I say that, you guys got to actually go back and look at the match. It kind of seemed like a lot of times there was miscues. I felt that Sarah Logan, she did okay. Ruby's always been a total freaking professional, so no problem with her whatsoever. But I don't know what was going on with Liv. Maybe she had the butterflies or whatever, but the chemistry alone with Charlotte, briefly that she had with her in the ring, it just was not there. Not there whatsoever. Kevin Owens had won his match against Randy Orton. It was a no DQ match. Sami Zayn barred from ringside. Closing moments of that matchup, we saw Owens go up to the top rope for a frog splash. Picked up the W that way. I know, right? You would think that maybe with them saying, oh, it's going to be a no DQ match, Sami Zayn is disqualified from being at ringside. You'd be under the impression that maybe Sami's going to find some type of a way to get into the matchup. It's going to end in some type of controversy or whatever, but no, it just went off with a clean 1-2-3. Was left a little bit speechless when it came to that one. That's just me. I'm not sure how many of you all were like that as well, but pretty lackluster episodes. It seems like now that the holidays were like officially passes, because Thanksgiving and all that was like basically last week. It just kind of seemed like it got phoned in. Seriously. Speaking of phoning in, I've got to give some constructive criticism to Anthem Entertainment, Impact Wrestling. Let me holler at you guys for a moment. Do me a huge favor. On the one hand, the episode that you all had aired for Thanksgiving, I appreciated that for the first time in many years, y'all did not do a feast or fired. I don't know if maybe we're now kind of getting past that, because that is a little bit of a silly concept some people feel, right? So I'm kind of happy that they kind of ditched that, at least for now. I'm glad that they wanted to continue the yearly tradition of who's going to wear the turkey outfit, but Impact Wrestling, Anthem Entertainment, did you guys really have to dedicate an hour and 15 minutes to not even showing matches, just showing who all had wore the costume, the turkey costume over the years, and then talking to all of the Impact roster, talent on the roster, and asking them what's some of their favorite Thanksgiving moments, what are they thankful for and all that. Did we really have to watch an hour 15 of that? I watched it on my DVR, and I gotta tell you guys, I was appalled by what I had saw. I was disgusted. I'm going, wait a minute now. And I don't want you hardcore Impact Wrestling fans. I think even the most hardcore, purest Impact Wrestling fan will have to agree with me that an hour 15, no original matches, just a lot of talking, and oh, look, that person's wearing the turkey outfit. Would have to admit that was one of the poorest produced episodes of Impact Wrestling to date that they have ever put out. That was a disservice to fans. I would have preferred it, honestly, if Impact Wrestling would have just been like, hey, look, we're going to show you guys some of the best moments that have happened in 2017 so far this year. We'll be back with you all for, an all new episode, or another thing that you could have done, make it be interactive. For a couple of weeks leading up into that Thanksgiving edition episode, you could have been polling fans, asking them what's been some of their favorite matches in Impact Wrestling, and you actually could have shown what the fans had voted for, while also bringing in, incorporating some of the moments of people that have wore the costumes over the years. You could have done it that way. You didn't have to go this other route. It wasn't watchable. I ended up just, let me see, what did I do Thanksgiving? I didn't watch that until I think like Friday afternoon. And I just was like, no, I'm done with this. I just turned it off and I ended up playing some video games instead. Cause I was just scratching my head. I was really baffled at that. So Impact Wrestling, please don't ever do that again. An hour 15. I actually clocked it. Cause I got the counter on my DVR and I'm going an hour 15 later. So you got about 45 minutes left and you're still on this? Like, what the hell, man? Not cool. Not cool at all. Oh, let's see. What else can we get into on this episode? Well, we're doing pretty good so far. We are just blazing through some of these topics. Let's see what else we can get into. I'm not sure if those of you had heard about this, but I definitely wanted to give my 2 cents with regards to this. So, Smackdown superstar Maria Kanellis, she had to take to social media recently to tackle people that's been criticizing her for her decision, along with her husband, Mike Kanellis, on her getting pregnant. As you all recall, she made the announcement back in September that she was pregnant with her first child. And this had led to a lot of people asking, how dare she get pregnant while working for the WWE? Now, she had put out a long statement. It was a social media post, but it was rather long. I'm not going to go through all of that because that would take like about almost 10 minutes for me to read. But the main meat and potatoes that I want to home in for you guys is the following that she said, and I quote, "I signed a contract with WWE in March and had no plans of getting pregnant until my contract was up. So yes, I have only been signed for a few months this time, but I worked for WWE before for 5.5 years. I've also been working in wrestling for 13 years, and I've been working since I was 12. I was a bus girl for my first job. Thus, I have been working for 23 years. I can get pregnant. I can even stay at home while pregnant and have a job because WWE thinks I am important and this baby is important enough to do so. After 23 years of work, do I deserve maternity leave? I think so, and so does WWE. Women deserve maternity leave and men deserve paternity leave. It should be a right, not a privilege. I will continue fulfilling the obligations of my WWE contract even after the baby arrives." So, SMGMB, which stands for Suck My Giant Mama Boobs. And that pretty much the end of it. Some people may poke a little bit of fun at that SMGMB, considering she is putting this passionate speech out there, and then she's trying to be jovial. She's trying to have a little bit, it can't be serious all the damn time. But look, man, let me tell you straight up, and I have been dealing with this. See, when I talk about personal things from my life, I don't say it to basically, oh, well, I'm mentioning it because, I'm important, or no. On the contrary, when I mention certain things about my personal life, it's basically to build the foundation and connect it to the topic that's at hand. And I definitely relate to what Maria and Mike are going through right now in preparing to welcome their first child into the world. It's always, when I give you all personal input, to give you all great clarity, because I know not everybody is, when it comes to wrestling, not everybody is in our respected age bracket of 30 plus. You got a lot of younger folks that's out there, so they're not really thinking of it the way you and I that's in our 30s and up would be looking at this. And let me tell you something. For about the past, I would say it's really been picking up the past 3 years now, that my girl and I, we have been talking about having kids. And I've always said to her in the previous years, hey man, financially, things are not quite where we need them to be. Let's really try to clean up our finances, get ourselves really where we know we need to be before we welcome a child into this world, because the last thing we need to be doing is living paycheck to paycheck and then having a scenario where it's like, okay, kids in the picture too, what are we going to do? We don't need to be struggling. I grew up in a household where I was the only child, and I saw firsthand what that's like to be in a household with struggling ends to meet, right down to the point you have a parent that just walks away and mom is left acting as both parents and trying to raise one child on her own. All right. Now, my girl, very fortunate. She didn't have that lifestyle. She had two hardworking parents that remained in her life all the way through her adult years, always there for her, always setting the right example. So you put our two worlds combined, yeah, we're probably going to make some awesome parents if and when the time does come. But it's really been intensifying the past couple of years. And one of the reasons why is because the longer you wait to get pregnant, sadly for females, the increase as far as if that child will be 100% healthy, if they will be okay, it decreases. And probably one of the main things that has most parents, especially moms in their late 30s going into their early 40s, tripping out about is Down syndrome. The older you get, when you're in your 30s going into your 40s, the higher the percentage odds that your child could be greatly impacted by Down syndrome, and or there could be some type of complications with the pregnancy. Okay, things that are just basically out of the mom's control. She can see that child to term, but there are things that's just out of that parent's control that shit can happen. Freak stuff can happen. All right. So for me, when I had first heard this, one, I couldn't believe that Maria Kanellis actually had to release this statement in defending her position. And then number two, I bet you that a majority of the people that were saying these things to her and her husband probably were extremely young. And I wouldn't put it past if it was a situation where you had a lot of maybe single young guys that are just now discovering their bodies, and respectively, they think that Maria Kanellis is like the hottest thing that's going on right now since sliced bread. And for them, their dreams are crushed. Like, they could understand the whole notion of her being married, her being with somebody, but now she's pregnant. And you really, until you walk a mile in that person's shoes, you just cannot judge. I have just become a firm believer in that over the years. And in this instance, it couldn't ring any more true. So, I mean, honestly, you look at how far along Maria and Mike Kanellis have come. They pretty much have first got together, if I'm not mistaken, during ROH, and things kind of pretty much had intensified from there. They got married and everything. And you know what? I give them kudos because they took their time in really getting to know each other as a couple before getting engaged, and then moving on to being married, and then even afterwards being married for a little bit, and then deciding, okay, you know what? Timing seems a little bit right, especially financially. We've got this comfortable situation with the WWE. Let's make the best of this. Let's put this to our advantage. And I commend them for that, because honestly, in today's day and age, there's not enough of that going around. There are a lot of women that are having children before even tying the knot. More and more and more. That is like now becoming the norm. And I really, really appreciate the core values of Mike and Maria Kanellis in being old school, because you don't hear of a lot of couples that young going the old school route and really taking their time with each other before deciding, you know what, let's do this. We can bring a child into this world. And for Maria to go that extra step, Because if there was ever a chance for her to rightfully say, you know what, I don't want to be with Mike anymore, she had her moments when she could have walked away. When he was dealing with his personal drug addiction, she could have left him high and dry right there and been like, you know what, this is just too much for me. This is not what I signed up for. I'm out of here. But she hung with him. There was something that she saw that other people did not see at that time that said to her, this guy, when you get him away from these vices, he is one of the most sweetest, kind-hearted, gentle people you'd ever come across. She saw something that made her say, no, I'm going to fight for him because I believe in us. And God bless her for that. And to basically succeed, and he's been clean for X amount of years now, and it's now gotten to that point. They've gone through their trials. They've gone through their tribulations, and now they're in this great position where Maria has been blessed with her first child, and someone has the audacity to say, how dare she get pregnant? Well, folks, people have needs, people have wants, and if, you know, it's great to be in a situation, especially when you're working in the wrestling business, it's really tough. It is really tough, I tell you. I've talked to people that are friends of mine that are either in the business as we speak, or were involved in the business, and that's probably the one thing that is really, really difficult of all the things incorporated with being in that profession. Trying to meet somebody that's in the wrestling business and able to complement each other so well, not getting on each other's nerves, and honestly having a really good blossoming relationship as a result of that. That's like really, really freaking hard to come by for a lot of people that are either in or were involved in the business. You got a lot more people that seem to just, I want a normal person. I don't want them to have any knowledge of the business whatsoever. That's usually the safer route, but for it to be a situation where you've got two people that have been involved in the business for as long as these two have been in, and for them to just be on this incredible journey that they've been on together, and they're welcoming their first child. I commend them for going old school. Yeah, everybody wants to throw up this whole travesty about her getting pregnant. It's like, no, the example that they're freaking setting is that's how you freaking do it. Too many times, we keep hearing about people having children out of wedlock. And it's not even freaking funny. And then you know who the saddest of all the victims, you know who's the victim of it all is? It's that child. It's that child that is being brought into the world, and the parents are deciding amongst each other, oh man, this isn't working out. And now there's a kid in the middle, and somehow both of them have to come together to somehow function just long enough to try to be cordial with each other and sharing the responsibilities of raising that child or children that they have together. The children are the ones that suffer the most. So for those that are all bent out of shape, I don't know if by me really connecting the dots for you, if you can really kind of understand it now and appreciate from a different position where the Kanellises are. But then again, if you are just thick-headed, naive, pretty young, nothing that I say is gonna make sense to you, because as far as I'm concerned, it just shattered your wet dreams that you have at night, and you just feel that it was selfish or whatever. But I'm telling you, when you're in your late 30s going into your 40s and you still do not have a child that you've brought into this world, and you've been thinking about it more and more and more, the time is clicking, especially for women. Men are good for the most part, especially if you have but at the same time, testosterone, it goes down, it decreases in due time. gets to that point where, depending on how long your testosterone levels are and you're a man, you may have to start taking some type of a dietary supplement pill to try to recoup on some of that. Maybe get some injections, who knows. But for women, it's much, much worse because the time is freaking clicking. Tick-tock for them, as far as successfully being able to conceive a child and take it to full term and without any problems, knocking on wood there. The Kanellis, they've got nothing but my respect. I just find it so freaking silly that she actually had to respond to all that. She really did not need to, I personally feel. But that's the type of society that we live in. You know, we were talking about the children being the victims and all that. It brings me to a piece of sad news. Davy Richards, Angelina Love, they have broken up. Apparently they're no longer married. Love had noted on her Instagram account that she's no longer married to Richards, as she changed her Instagram description to read single mama, wrestler, first ever 6-time knockouts champion, medical aesthetician, actress, and student. Richards and Love, they had began dating back January of 2015, and then they got married the following year back in June, and they had their first child, David Vincent Richards, on March of 2016. I'm not going to speculate into whatever had possibly had went down. I mean, there could be so many theories as far as what had went down. Ultimately, it could have just been a situation where the couple had outgrew each other's needs and wants, and had decided, you know what, you're going in this direction, I'm going in this other direction. Hey, I think we should just, sounds like we're better off as friends, but let's do what we can to try to be there for the kid. You would hope that maybe that could be the case. It's not always the case, but I tell you, this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. Now, I'm not saying in any shape, form, or fashion that Davy Richards, Angelina Love are bad parents. For the record, I don't know anything about these guys, okay, personally. I just know how they are professionally through knowing enough people, how they conduct themselves, different wrestling organizations. And I can only speak from that standpoint, and also speak from the standpoint as a wrestling fan of what I see of them from whatever events that they show up where they show up at. So I can only speak from those standpoints, but I would hope, for the sake of that child, prime example, night and day of what I was talking about before a few seconds ago, I really hope that they're able to put whatever differences that they've had with each other, if any, to the side, and really try to be there for that child, because that child is going to need them now more than ever. That child is going to need them all the way until they are at least 21 years of age, man. So for you guys that have had the hots for Angelina Love for an extended period of time, is there still a chance? Yeah, apparently there's still a chance. Drew McIntyre news, as noted earlier. Drew McIntyre legitimately did suffer what's being believed as described as a torn bicep at TakeOver War Games, where he lost the NXT title to Cien Almas. PW Insider is reporting that McIntyre is already rehabbing the injury. He's expected to be out of action until early April 2018. So there is a possibility he could return for the TakeOver event during WrestleMania 34 weekend in New Orleans. Not confirmed just yet, though. So fingers crossed. I mean, the timing of that, it just freaking sucks. It sucks big time. I was really loving the reign of Drew McIntyre in NXT. But I tell you, Cien Almas has really been working his ass off, and what he's been able to do, collaboration with Austin Aries' wife, I tell you, they make a great combo, a really great combo. And I'm telling you, Cien Almas is going to be a great addition to the main roster when the time is right, because they have been looking for that guy, that Rey Mysterio, that Eddie Guerrero. They have been looking for that for quite a long time, and they just may be able to do right finally with Cien Almas, but that's at a later date. I'm enjoying what he's doing right now in NXT. Hey, you guys hear about Batista's interview that he had on Jim Ross's podcast? Wow, if you guys didn't check that out, you need to listen to it. Batista had talked about his last run with the WWE and whether he'd consider coming back to the company. And he also had some pretty big high praise for Triple H. And according to him, he would love to go back to the WWE for another run. But the problem so far from what he's experiencing is scheduling, because he's so busy right now with his acting career, and he doesn't have any interest in doing one-off appearances in the WWE. Now, I love that. Let me just pause and let me just say, I love hearing that. He don't want to basically pull a Rock or a Shawn Michaels or whatever. He doesn't want to just be one and done. He wants to come in and he wants to go at it hard. I love that. I love that about Dave Batista. Now, he admits that while he's had his gripes with the company, he still remains on good terms with the WWE, constantly is in touch with Vince McMahon, even had revealed that he recently was in some type of discussion with Vince McMahon, saying, and I quote, "That has been the issue for me, man, because I've never burnt that bridge. It really is because I still love wrestling and everybody in WWE has always been really good to me. I have my gripes with the company, but I'm sure everybody else does. At the same time, I don't ever disrespect the company intentionally. I don't have any reason to, but also because I didn't leave there under bad circumstances. I just left because I wanted to pursue other things. I didn't walk out on them. I let my contract run out. They knew I was going to be leaving, so I did business the right way, and I'm really thankful that I did." But the short answer to that is yes. I would love to go back, but the reason I have not gone back is because I don't want to do a one-off. I want to go and I want to wrestle. I want to do some house shows. I want to be part of the program, and the one-off thing, the cheap pop thing, man, it doesn't do anything for me. So now it's a matter of scheduling. If I can go back, and if I get injured, is it going to affect something else? Yeah, I'm not a cheap pop guy. Said he talked to Vince McMahon and he knows what I want. And he also talked about how he would love to come back and have a program with Triple H. What better way to properly end things than by him having one last program with Triple H. I have been a fan of Dave Batista for many years. Since the moment that I first saw him. You can actually go back on Epic Sports. You can actually listen to the clip that I did a couple of weeks ago. There's an excerpt that's on Epic Sports right now from a couple of shows back where I had talked about my experience seeing Dave Batista for the very first time as Deacon Batista, as he has served as a henchman for Brother Devon. You can check that out. And I just, from the moment I saw him, I said, that guy is money. I can freaking smell it. And I never imagined in 1,000 years that he'd be able to reach the heights that he's been able to reach post WWE. But he has just been continuing one piece at a time to just be really freaking impressive. Look, we all can be in agreement. I don't think you'd come across anybody that would beg to differ, but his last run with the WWE, it was crap. It was freaking crap. From the moment that he had came in, won the Royal Rumble, it wasn't Daniel Bryan. I mean, it was just off to a shaky start. Honestly, not really memorable. Probably the thing that really stands out to me the most is Batista. If there was any true moment that I go, Batista. I remember when he first came back. Remember the vignettes and all that, the excitement. Remember the vignettes, but then other than that, everything else is a blur. Batista. That's all I really remember. That's not a good thing. So would I love for him to come back to the WWE one last hoorah? Yeah, and I tell you what, man, if they can freaking do it with Goldberg, they should be able to do something with my man Big Dave. If Big Dave is saying, hey man, look, I just want to come in, I want everything to be right on all cylinders. As far as I'm concerned, they tried it Vince McMahon's way. And Vince McMahon's way did not work. Vince McMahon's way was outdated. It was very outdated, and it showed tremendously. Maybe this go round, what they should do is let Triple H be the one, since he's had such great success with NXT. Maybe they should let Triple H be the one that has his fingerprints all over from the moment Dave comes back. Everything, there's something sewn out there. It's something that is just written out very well. Since they like to say that they have WrestleMania usually planned a year in advance or whatever like that. Well, you know what? If Dave Batista says he can commit to the WWE for 6 months, then you need to do everything in your power to make sure that you have 6 months worth of scripts, worth of programming for Dave Batista already set up, even with some contingency plans. Because, you know, stuff happens. People get suspended, people get injured. Have some backup plans ready to go just in case. I think that's the only way you would be able to cross off all your X's and O's. But I personally would love to see, for all the success that Triple H has been having down in NXT, I would love to see Triple H really be hands-on with Dave Batista when he comes in this go round. I believe he will be back in the WWE. I truly do believe that. It's just all about the timing. And if you really kind of stop and think about it, look at who all they've gone through so far. They've gone through Ultimate Warrior. They've gone through Kurt Angle. They've gone through Goldberg. They've had Hulk Hogan a couple of times now. There's not really too many more guys that they can do like really big business with. And they definitely owe it to themselves. The Rock, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, they've worked with him a couple of times over the years. There's only but so many people that are left that they can really generate big buzz from. And given all the great success that Dave Batista has been having and being incorporated with the Marvel universe, I mean, he's had a great run with Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. He's going to have a pretty important role in the next Avengers movie that's going to be coming about, where the Guardians are going to be displayed in that big time. So, I mean, he is on a serious freaking roll right now. WWE would be fools to not capitalize on that buzz that he's been able to build. For a guy that's basically saying, hey, look, I want to come back, but I want to come at it full time. I want to be all in, man, and everything's got to be on point. I don't see what's so wrong with that. I really don't. It shouldn't be a measuring contest. It should be, okay, let's take a step back. This guy, we gotta give him the benefit of doubt. He said the last time that he was here, blah, blah, blah would not work. He was right. Okay, so how do we rectify that? I mean, if things can be worked out with all of the people that I had just made mention of, Mauro Ranallo can come back into the fold, anything and everything can truly happen in the WWE. I believe we have not seen the last of Dave Batista. If you ask me for my honest opinion, I think at this point, I think WWE is going to stay the course with regards to WrestleMania. I have some type of feeling that maybe the night after WrestleMania, maybe Dave Batista will return, and maybe that's how things will get popping that way. I really wouldn't be that surprised. I mean, if you ask me honestly what I would like to see happen, I wouldn't mind something coming about where it's safe to say the Kurt Angle Triple H program, that's going to happen. Would I personally love to see Kurt Angle pick up a W? I would. I definitely would. However, if I had a guaranteed deal with Dave Batista going into WrestleMania, 34? If I had a guaranteed deal with Dave Batista before going into WrestleMania 34 for like a 6-month run or however long of a run, or if he maybe could fully commit to a year or whatever like that, I would set up something where actually I would have Triple H go over Kurt Angle, and then the next night on Monday Night Raw, Triple H gives this nice big old told you so speech or whatever like that, and then cue up the music of Dave Batista, let him get in the face of Triple H. That moment would sell for several minutes. Let those two not say any damn thing for several minutes. Sell that moment, right? And then you can have Dave Batista just pretty much grab a microphone and say, you name the place, anywhere, anytime, you and me, one-on-one, one last go round. What do you say, big man? And I'm telling you, folks would just be in your freaking euphoria over that. I'm telling you, that's the way you should outline it. Now, whether or not you'd see Big Dave Batista after that, it all depends on his scheduling. I mean, if he can have a whole year free, then you could definitely do something with him, right then and there. But I'm committing to a 6-month run because that's pretty much long enough for him to come right on in. I'm kind of looking at maybe bringing him in kind of close around Survivor Series and pretty much let things wrap up around WrestleMania season. That's when I honestly feel you could do it. But if you want to kind of get people talking or whatever, you could definitely set it up that way. That's just one area, one route that you could go. But I definitely would love to see Dave Batista back in the WWE. All the fans that grew up on Dave Batista, I think they would definitely be in agreement that his last run, no. So WWE definitely owes the man justice to make sure that if they're going to do business with him, that they do things right this go round. Speaking of Dave Batista, I think I had mentioned it before, but the man's actually going to be coming to 2018's AwesomeCon. And you know, I was invited to last year's AwesomeCon to cover the event as part of the press media. That was a fun freaking experience. If you guys didn't check out some of my video clips and a couple of interviews, check it out on my YouTube channel. Dave Batista is actually coming back home to DC for the first time in many years. He's going to be at 2018's AwesomeCon. So I am looking forward to hearing that our show is being welcomed back to cover AwesomeCon again. And I'm telling you, I'm going to do everything in my power humanly possible, to not only get my photo ops, autographs and all that with Big Dave. I'm going to try to see if maybe I could also score an interview as well. That would be really freaking sweet. But I'm telling you, the moment that Dave Batista finally returns to the WWE universe, everybody is going to freaking forget about all the crap that had went down with his last run. Everybody's just going to be high off of the success that he's had in Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Everybody's really going to be tripping over that and seeing what he's going to be doing in the world of wrestling. You got to build off of that. You got to capitalize off of that. To not do so would just be an ego thing. And I kind of get the notion sometimes that WWE doesn't kind of like it when certain stars are able to have even more bigger success outside of the WWE than they ever had. With the company. And a lot of times that's why you see WWE doing all these deals now with their own film production, trying to put their stars in all kinds of sometimes really bad movies and all that. But if you got somebody saying they're willing to work with you, you'd be stupid, because that's just a big old pile of money that you're leaving on the table. Speaking of money, WWE is going to be cutting back on pay-per-views in 2017. What started off as just rumor, now it appears as though it's a fact. WWE is only going to be doing 14 pay-per-views in 2018 as opposed to 16 that they did for this calendar year. WWE is going to be running 5 Raw brand events, 4 Smackdown events, and 5 co-branded events. Money in the Bank, which will be a co-branded event, although it's not known if Raw or SmackDown will have separate Money in the Bank matches or if those matches will feature talent from both brands. In 2018, the only months that's going to be featuring 2 pay-per-views is May and September. This year saw April, June, July, October all featured 2 pay-per-view events. So it looks as though this decision was partly made to cut back on the number of shows based on network numbers, but it's also being noted that network subscription patterns didn't change after they increased the number of shows. So on the one hand, you've got the network revenue that really didn't increase that much. Then on the other hand, you got that WWE has been adding the expenses of the additional shows, right? And although they are offset a little by the higher ticket prices and better attendance for them, WWE's kind of realizing that, well, you know what? We can't kind of trim it a little bit because we're really not making that much money. If anything, we could kind of save a little bit more on expenses. So the way it's looking right now, I've got the calendar here for these pay-per-view events coming up. Let me just take a quick swig of this. That's good shit. Got my Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA. Took me a good minute to find this. I had to go to several freaking liquor stores in my area to try to get this bad boy. That's all I want for Christmas. I'll take that and some new studio equipment. So the schedule. January 28th, Philly Royal Rumble. February 25th, Las Vegas Elimination Chamber. That's a Raw event. March 11th, Columbus, Ohio, Fastlane, SmackDown. April 8th, New Orleans, WrestleMania 34. May 6th, New Jersey, Backlash, Raw event. May 27th, Baltimore, Payback, SmackDown event. June 17th, Chicago, Money in the Bank. July 15th, Pittsburgh, Battleground, Raw. April 19th, Brooklyn, SummerSlam. September 16th, San Antonio, Texas, Extreme Rules, that'll be a Raw event. September 30th, Nashville, Hell in a Cell, SmackDown event. October 21st, Boston, Massachusetts, TLC, Raw event. November 18th, Los Angeles, Survivor Series, and December 16th, San Jose, California, Clash of Champions, SmackDown event. Speaking of house show events and all that, I saw like so many people saying great things about the Starrcade event that had came about. There were those that had saw it in attendance. You even had a couple of people that were streaming it via Periscope and a couple of other platforms. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to check out the event, but I definitely shared the sentiments of many people that were not able to see this on the WWE network. I agree with the consensus, which is basically, hey, look, when it's all said and done, WWE, you all keep trying to give folks a reason why they need to subscribe to the WWE network, because one of the main drives you all are pushing is new original content, table for three, bring it to the table. What else are they pushing on there? They're also pushing the 365 now. They're also pushing WWE 24/7, Ride Along, Story Time. They're pushing all of these great shows, but yet when it counts the most, I mean, look, I kind of gave up on them when it comes to the vintage wrestling archives. It's like they upload when they upload, whenever they feel like it. All right. They give it to me. They give it to me. If not, it's all good. Right. Lord knows I can go check out wrestling content from several other promotions. But like, you would think that if there was ever an extra incentive to make folks want to sign up for the network, it would be for stuff like Starrcade. And I remember when WWE had did the Beast in the East, they did the Japan joint. Lord only knows how much maybe that had cost for them to do that. All right. So I get that this calendar year alone, WWE has been trying to do everything in their power to make some necessary cutbacks and all that. But I have strongly believed for the longest that, like, if you want to increase revenue to the point that you're able to justify showing original events like a Starrcade and all that, you need to stop spamming the hell out of get a free month subscription for the WWE network, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to have people that are like, hey, shit, I get to check out the WWE network for an entire freaking month. And then after that, I'm not going to even renew it. You tell them they can sign up, no credit card needed. Yeah. Watch them go on ahead, sign up, and then when it comes time for them to renew, I'm just going to let it lapse. I can actually show you guys the email. I remember there was 1 month where I didn't have the money to afford the network, and I actually had signed up with a different account to get a free month trial. And after a couple of weeks, I was actually able to resurrect my other account, and I'm good to go again. That's probably like the first time, as long as I had subscribed to the network, first time I wasn't able to make a payment. And I actually had got an email about 2 months ago from that other account that I had used, because I saw the email notification for it, and they were like, hey, we want to give you another month of checking out the WWE network for free. And it's like, wait a minute, are you serious? Like, you serious? Like, I just got a month. It's like, now you guys are trying to offer me another month? Like, what the hell? So they gotta stop doing that. They are losing so much potential money that way. Honestly, I don't see what's so freaking hard with just offering a 3-day trial, or a week trial or something like that. Now, you could probably reduce it a little bit, especially if you were to set it up in a way where the trial wasn't valid during the week of a pay-per-view or something like that. You got to protect that revenue at all costs, man. Seriously, the more money that you're able to generate, the better. But I think that's probably one of the focal points that they're having right now, because by now they were expecting the WWE network to be somewhere like at about 3 million subscribers or whatever, but they can barely, what are they now? Like 1.5, 1.7 million subscribers since they have first launched. That's not really freaking impressive. That's great that you've been able to maintain all this time in due time, right? But like, you guys were expecting about 3 million by now, and you're still at the 1 point mark. That's not really good, man. That's not really good whatsoever. Let's see some other stuff we can get into before we wrap up the show. We're about an hour, 51 minutes in. Let's see. Some interesting notes with regards to, this week. This week marks the anniversary of the assassinations of ex-supervisor Dan White, as Dan White had requested a meeting, actually not the assassination of him, but ex-supervisor Dan White had requested a meeting of, meeting Mayor George Moscone, and then he, killed the mayor, and then he killed, who else did he kill? He gunned down Harvey Milk, an openly gay politician who was also very well respected, especially when it came to gay rights, as he was a gay rights activist. Later on, the steps of City Hall, Supervisor Dianne Feinstein would be the one to confirm both men are dead. This was as a result of ex-Supervisor Dan White requesting a meeting to meet with the mayor, pretty much gunned him down, and then went a couple of doors down, found Harvey Milk, gunned him down. It's the anniversary of Harvey Milk and George Moscone being killed at San Francisco City Hall. If you guys have never heard about Harvey Milk, there's a really great movie that you all should check out. It's called Milk. It stars Sean Penn, who gave a very riveting performance as Harvey Milk. You guys, by the time you get done watching that movie, you're going to want to piggyback and you're going to want to check out the actual documentary of Harvey Milk. There was like a bunch of recordings that Harvey Milk had did, like leading up to his death. Very raw, very emotional. It's all in black and white. Seen it on Turner Classic Movies off and on this year. But it'll definitely make you want to go back and check out everything Harvey Milk related. Also, November 29th, which is today, marks the anniversary of West Side Story star Natalie Wood, who drowned. You had the bruised up body of the 43-year-old actress found floating face down near the Catalina Island in California. She had been staying on a yacht with her husband, at the time actor Robert Wagner, and her co-star in the film Brainstorm, Christopher Walken. Wood's death is ruled an accident, but later it was changed to undetermined. And for the longest period of time, Natalie Wood's sister has sworn all up and down that Robert Wagner, Christopher Walken, they know a lot more to the story about what had went down that night, and she holds Robert Wagner responsible. There's actually been a couple of times over the years where she's confronted him, audio recordings and all, trying to extract the truth from him, and there's been a couple of times where it kind of seemed as though maybe he was slipping a little bit, letting up. But there's been so many speculations being put out there that maybe Natalie had discovered that Robert Wagner, Christopher Walken, they had a thing going on, that they were somewhat on the DL, and she found out, and both men had basically conspired up the idea of killing her or whatever. You have another story that says Robert was just extremely jealous of her chemistry with Robert, felt as though maybe something was going on between her and Christopher Walken, and you have that going on. There's so many different stories that's been spun out there over the years, and when you find out the details about her body and how it's all bruised up, you're kind of led to the impression, no, all that can't come from the boat. It comes off as if this girl was in some type of a physically abusive relationship. The bruises weren't fresh, but you're kind of led to the impression that something kind of went down in the weeks leading up to this girl's death. What the hell? Other interesting note in entertainment, the estate of Walter Becker from Steely Dan, they responded to a lawsuit filed by his Steely Dan bandmate Donald Fagen over ownership of the band following Becker's death back September 3rd. In Fagen's lawsuit, the singer accuses Becker's estate of reneging on a buy-sell agreement that he and Becker signed and agreed to back in 1972. Under that respected agreement, it found that if one member of the duo had died, then the other surviving member would be able to purchase all shares of Steely Band. If one of the members quit or died. And I quote, "We believe the agreement to which Mr. Fagen refers to in his suit, drafted 45 years ago, was not in effect at the time of Walter's death," a representative for Becker's estate said in a statement to Rolling Stone. Mr. Fagen's lawsuit, riddled with half-truths and omissions, misleadingly fails to state that the day after Walter died, Mr. Fagen had his lawyers send a demand letter to Walter's estate, thus beginning a legal campaign against Walter's family immediately after his death. In Fagen's lawsuit, which also sued the band's former business management firm and tour accounting company over secretive behaviors, the musician claimed that he received a letter from Becker's widow stating that as director or officer of Steely Dan, she is entitled to 50% ownership of the band. He also accused the Becker estate of not relinquishing control of the Steely Dan website, and they're disputing all of this, and they're noting that the probably most effed up thing about all this is that this lawsuit was given to them, like the paperwork, the filing and all of it for the lawsuit was given to them on the day before Thanksgiving. So it just sounds really nasty. And Donald Fagen, so far, he has gone through 3 different lawyers. Now take that for what it's worth. But when I hear something like that, kind of sounds to me like, okay, you're not giving me what I want. Fuck you, you're out of here, next person up. That's honestly how it comes off to me. So it's really sad, and it's quite disgusting that you have something like this coming about, especially during the holidays. Donald Fagen must really be freaking hurting for money, man. He must really be hurting for money, because I know he had got divorced a couple of years back, and I'm not sure if that's really been hurting him, but to do something like this, I mean, damn, the guy's only been dead for like, almost 3 months. Almost 3 months. Can't you give the family enough time to mourn, grieve, and try to come together during the holidays, and then maybe kind of like take care of this as professionally and respectfully as you can first quarter in 2017? It just really comes off like a dickish move. I know there's 2 sides to every story, but it definitely doesn't help that Donald Fagen has yet to put out some type of a statement really trying to clear the air on what all had came about and why so far he's gone into 3 lawyers over this damn thing. I mean, it makes no sense whatsoever. Sticking with entertainment, Marvel had finally released the first official trailer for Avengers Infinity War, and I gotta tell you, it is freaking orgasmic. I'm excited. It sucks we gotta wait until, what was it, May 2018. I'm so heartbroken by that, but like, we got my man Tom Holland from Spider-Man Homecoming. He's back for this one. We got Guardians of the Galaxy. We got our first proper introduction to Black Panther. There's like so many other cool, colorful characters that we're gonna be able to check out when this movie comes about. But at the same time, it's also gonna mark the end of Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk, Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, Chris Evans as Captain America. A lot of their contracts are all expiring at the same time, and the way it's being described, this is pretty much kind of like their bon voyage, so to speak, unless they're able to get these guys signed up for another one-off joint. This is pretty much gonna be it. But you got one of the top hits in Marvel basically saying, hey, look, there are like so many cool, colorful characters that's in Marvel right now. The franchise, as far as the movies go, it is going to be okay. You know, we're going to be all right for years to come. I know we shouldn't be really jumping too far ahead and everything, but like me personally, I just can't wait. I can't wait to see how this movie is going to come about. I'm excited. The trailer, I watched that trailer I don't know how many freaking times, and I just thought it was freaking badass, man. So I can't wait for that. Let's see. Hey, I watched the Kevin Owens 365 special, and I can't encourage you guys enough. For those of you that maybe did not get the opportunity to check it out, check it out. That thing is freaking awesome. Let me tell you, I enjoyed it from top to bottom. Probably one of the best WWE network specials they've put out there. It's definitely it's right up under the Goldberg 24/7. It's definitely right up there. And I tell you, Michael Rappaport, who is a huge sports fan, don't get him talking about the Knicks. I always have loved that dude. Very underrated actor. Probably one of the main key points from that special, it was revealed that Vince McMahon didn't like Kevin Owens' match with Chris Jericho at WrestleMania 33 this past April. Before the match, we see Kevin Owens talking about how he's always wanted to do a singles match at WrestleMania, and he just talked about how he felt as though the match really wasn't living up to his expectations. He didn't really think that it was good enough. He didn't feel 100% happy with that match. And he had approached Vince McMahon, who was sitting alongside Freebird's Michael P.S. Hayes. And he walked up to Vince McMahon and he said, "Are we good?" And Vince McMahon shot right back at him. No, looked back at the monitor. And we just see Kevin standing there like, okay, what the fuck? And he talked about how that was like the first time in his career, in his tenure with the WWE, that he had seen Vince McMahon very unhappy with one of his matches, as he like had took that as a failure. And you're just like, whoa, that, can you just imagine like looking for that approval from someone that you kind of look at not only in a authority type of role, but you also look at them to a certain degree as a father figure, and combine all of those things with the fact that here's Kevin Owens, a guy that has been a wrestling fan. Some could even consider him to be a mark, but when you get right down to it, we all are marks to a certain degree. But here is a guy that loved the profession so much, he wanted to do everything in his power to be involved in the sport. And for him to be working alongside one of his idols in Chris Jericho, right? Like, how can you go wrong having a match with Jericho WrestleMania for the United States title? Yeah, that's got to be on point, right? But for Vince McMahon to have felt the way that he felt, and to see Kevin Owens, I mean, you just watch him right before your very eyes, like his heart just breaking into 1,000 pieces, and you're going, what the hell? I really wish, and maybe the powers that be in WWE, family and all that, maybe they're trying to do a better job in protecting Vince. I don't know, because I've heard the rumblings that his health isn't really doing too good. Take that for what it's worth, because you hear that, but then on the one hand, you get these pictures of Vince like every other month. The guy is freaking ripped as hell, got the body of a freaking 47-year-old nowadays. But, you know, I guess it's all about the mind, right? Who knows? But you take all these conflicting reports that you're hearing about Vince McMahon's health. But me personally, I wish Vince McMahon would have appeared on camera and talked about why, you know, what elements it was that made Vince feel that match wasn't what he was looking for, right? I really wish we could have gotten that bird's eye view. That's what a lot of people, including myself, have really been wanting as far as a WWE Network special goes. We've been wanting to, you know, other than the Stone Cold podcast, we really have been wanting to get into the psyche more of Vince McMahon, to understand certain things involving the business, why he does certain things in the WWE with certain talents and all that. And that day may never come. It may never freaking come, man. But it's a really great special. You just come away from it. You know, those of you that are hardcore Kevin Owens fans, and you get the stuff that you get on social media, and you kind of want to take a break from that, and you kind of want to get a little bit peek, if you will, into the actual man himself. I think this might be the closest that you could possibly get to Kevin Owens. I would definitely encourage you guys to check out this 365 special when you get the opportunity. It was a damn good special. You also learn a lot more about the close friendship relationship that he has with Finn Balor, how heartbroken he was when Finn Balor had got injured shortly after winning the Universal Championship, becoming the first ever Universal Champion, and how that basically had presented an opportunity for him. It was a really, really good 365 special. It basically had kicked off from last year's SummerSlam, taking Kevin Owens all the way up to this year's SummerSlam and the conclusion of it. And I won't spoil the ending for you guys, but Kevin Owens walked away pretty happy with regards to that matchup, as he got an endorsement from an unlikely person he didn't think he would get the endorsement from. So check that out. There are some really hot photos that are floating around for Women's Crush Wednesday and all that. There is a really, really hot photo of Noelle Foley showing off in a bikini, And she basically had said, "Hey, Victoria's Secret, if you want some extra meat on your runway, you know where to find me." I love watching the Victoria's Secret fashion show every year, and I love that there is a range of nationalities among models, but it would be amazing to see a range of sizes, maybe one day. Also, I'm really glad that I didn't edit out the model failing because, correction, I'm really glad they didn't edit out the model falling, because it shows that not everything goes as planned and not everyone is perfect. And if you fall down, you get back up. Heart hashtag VS fashion show. You got to look at this picture, guys. I mean, I did not realize Noelle had hips. I should have known better, because her old man, all due respect, her old man has hips. Not saying that as a bad thing, but she has really, in all seriousness, she has really blossomed into a stunningly beautiful woman. I don't know if I'm pretty sure that I had Deb, but if you guys get the opportunity to see Mick Foley live in person, whether he's doing his one-man shows and all that, and I know he's actually going to be coming back to DC Improv in April, I want to say. I think it's a couple of weeks before WrestleMania, or maybe a couple of weeks after WrestleMania. He's going to be talking about, I believe, the 20th anniversary of his Hell in a Cell match with The Undertaker. And when Mick Foley was at the Improv last year, if I'm not mistaken, it's been so long ago, my memory's, a little bit foggy right now. But I remember the last time he was here at DC Improv for his one-man show, me and Tammy had met him, and we met Noelle after the show. And I'm telling you, with what you see of her on cameras with Holy Foley, what you see of her on social media, it does not do her justice. When you actually meet her in person, you are quite taken back, and very rare do I stutter tremendously and I have a hard time like finding the right words. But when I saw Noelle for the first time in person, I just was like fumbling big time. That's how stunningly beautiful she is. And she doesn't really wear that much makeup. That's the thing. It's like natural freaking beauty. So, yeah, she's definitely coming along quite well, I must say. And I feel that when the time is right, when she's ready, yeah, she's going to have a pretty damn good career, I think, in the WWE, if that's still an option that she wants to go to, man. See, other than that, what other topics can we get into? I'm just trying to see if there's some other stuff we can get into. Let me think. I think that's all I want to get into on this week's episode. There's a couple other things I wanted to get into, but I think what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to save those for a Patreon edition episode of the RCWR show. So I will probably be recording that sometime Thursday and uploading that on Patreon. Did I say at the top of the show Thursday, by the way? My days are so mixed up. Today is actually Wednesday, November 29th, 2017. Just want to make sure I get that out there in the open. All right. So your next edition of the RCWR show is going to be coming at you guys, looking at the calendar here. Unless I am extremely sick again, I will definitely be doing a show for you guys Tuesday, November 5th. 10 p.m. Eastern, as soon as Smackdown goes off the air. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at the RCWR show. You like me, please support the show. Patreon.com/RCWR show. Definitely looking forward to uploading some content. It's just the timing has been really bad this month, guys, but I promise you guys, we are definitely gonna be working on putting up more content for you guys, making it available. So don't think that we're leaving you guys high and dry. You're not. The thoughts are always with you all, because we do appreciate those of you that are going out of your way, and in particular going out of your pockets to make a contribution to the show, because I'm telling you, without you all's contributions, the shows would not be free. telling you that right now. I'd be charging $1.99 out the ass or whatever. So it's really great that you all are continuing to contribute, because I got to tell you, the domino effect, you basically are helping me make sure that the shows stay free for everybody to check out. You're definitely helping me out with renewal subscriptions, bandwidth, everything related to the show. If I need to update equipment, things of that nature, it's just one big old domino effect. Patreon.com/RCWR show. And remember, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Use the keywords, the RCWR show. Remember, I'm going to be doing a bonus edition of the RCWR show. That's going to be for our Patreon listeners. I'll be having that ready on Thursday. So check that out when you guys get the opportunity. A lot more stuff that I will be diving into. A little bit of stuff wrestling related. There's also going to be some stuff sports related as well. So it's going to be some good stuff. So make sure you scoop that on up. That is going to do it. Remember, if you enjoyed the show, do subscribe, do like. All that really helps out. Recommend it, Google Plus it, Facebook it, Pinterest it. One of the many ways you can spread a good word about the content. That is going to do it. Have a great, fun, and safe week. Enjoy the rest of it, especially this weekend coming up. I will see you all next go round. Everybody, do take care.